Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, Warmer Brother Hello! Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by Rob Donaldson. He does great work with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets. We're going to be chatting with him about what we've all been seeing in baseball thus far this season. We're going to be diving in on some of the things that he is looking at moving forward into the summer months. We'll dive in on the Tuesday games and so much more. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you'll have one of two ways to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, name does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by Edge Boost. Over at Edge Boost, they're making sure that every single gambling-related transaction is approved every single time. And when you go to edgeboost.bet, utilize that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll give you a $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Monday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the Rowdy recap.
Now I did have to do this one a little bit in advance because I got called out in the blue to do cashing out for this late Monday, so it was a little bit unexpected. So anything that I don't polish up on the podcast tonight with regards to recap, I'll get you guys tomorrow on that as well, and I'll be having a lot of live VSiN shows for you guys for the next few weeks. So for those that are fans of that, I certainly have you covered. And if you're a fan of unders with the Texas Rangers, well, you got another one on Monday. As for the Rangers, they fall to the Baltimore Orioles by a count of 6-0. Just absolutely nothing doing for this team at the plate, as Patrick Corbin looked like the Patrick Corbin of old. Gives up 5 runs over the course of 5 innings, including a home run. Going deep off of him, Jackson Holliday's 9th home run of the season, and Trevor Rogers looked really good. 8 scoreless innings. Andrew Kittredge from there, 8 scoreless inning. And for the Walker Texas Rangers, Dane Dunning, not stunning, but he got her Dunning. He gave up 1 run in 2 innings, and then Jacob Webb was able to come in, and he supplied the team with a scoreless inning as well. Do have to do this as we don't know the outcome of the Red Sox versus Angels, the Washington Nationals, and the San Diego Padres games either, so we've got that. But as of right now, you got the Arizona Diamondbacks absolutely beating up on the Chicago White Sox. It is 8-0 as I do this, and well, for the Chicago White Sox, they were hoping for a good start out of Shane Smith, and they did not get it. 5 runs allowed over the course of 2 innings, and he does give up a bomb in this one, as it was Mr. Smith, Pavin Smith, getting his 7th home run of the campaign, and then off of Dan Altavilla, his 8th home run of the campaign, and Gitel Marte of the Marte Parte also goes deep off of Altavilla, who gives up 2 solo runs over the course of 2 innings. From there, you've had Wilkman Gonzalez come into the game, try to hold down the fort, and for Eduardo Rodriguez, he has currently gone scoreless through 4 innings as I record this, and it's looking like the Minnesota Twins losing skid. I mean, it's not necessarily a streak because they did get 1 win like a week or so ago, but man, it looks like they're going to build a losing streak to 4, and if I'm not mistaken, this is going to be loss number 9 out of their last 10 games unless if they come back. Right now, as I record this, 7-2 they are down, and for Bailey Ober, it's just not getting any better. They left him out there to die for 6 innings. He gives up 7 runs, all of which were earned, including a trio of bombs. Now, most of this came in the 3rd inning, but you had Luke Raley get his 3rd home run in the campaign. You had Mr. Julio Rodriguez, his 11th, and Dominic Canzone, his 4th. Brian Wu, as I'm doing this, has given up 2 solo home runs over the course of 5+ innings, going deep. Carlos Correa, 6th home run season. Trevor Larnach, his 11th home run of the campaign, and as of right now, for the New York Yankees, you need to come back against the Reds. They're currently down by a count of 4-1 with only 2 innings left to play in. For Alan Winans, was hoping for a little bit of better start out of him. 4 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings with Gavin Lux. David Kinham deep, 4th home run in the campaign, and Nick Lodolo keeps it on the low. He gives up a solo run over the course of 4 1/3 innings. Did jack up his pitch count as Aaron Judge got him for his 28th home run of the campaign, but from there, Scott Barlow, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Nick Martinez, who's now coming out of the bullpen, a scoreless inning, and Ian Hamilton, 5 outs out of the bullpen, scoreless for the New York Yankees. Currently, the Atlanta Braves are clinging to a 3-2 lead over the New York Mets. For the Mets, coming off of Sunday Night Baseball, and a team that has lost themselves, I believe, 8 out of their last 9 games entering into the day on Monday. Not necessarily ideal. And Spencer Schwellenbach, he has been pretty ideal. Goes 7 innings, gives up 2 runs, and he did allow a home run along the way as Juan Soto gets his 17th home run in the campaign, but Paul Blackburn walks the plank, 3 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings as Ronald Acuna Jr., 9th home run in the campaign. From there, you had Jose Buto give you 1 1/3 inning scoreless, Ryan Stanek a scoreless inning, and currently Reed Garrett is in to hold down the 4th for them. And right now, the Milwaukee Brewers are losing to the Pirates by a count of 4-2 as I record this. For the Brewers, keep in mind, 3.6 runs per game at home entering into this game, 5.6 runs per game away from home. And for Braxton Ashcraft, he actually lent 3 scoreless innings. You've had Hunter Stratton from there give up 2 runs in his inning work. And Tommy Pham, his first home run of the season. And Tommy Pham has been getting consistent at-bats all season long. That comes in like at bat number either 158 or 159. Just insane as that comes off of Chad Bradtrick, who as of right now has given up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings, so a little bit less than ideal there. And right now, this is very much less than ideal for the Chicago Cubs. They're getting lambasted by the St. Louis Cardinals. Only question is, are you going to get a push on this total or the over? 8-1. Cardinals are leading as they go into the 7th inning as Ben Brown lit up for 8 runs in 5 innings, including 4 bombs. Going deep, Nolan Gorman and Brendan Donovan both get their 5th home run of the season. Alec Burleson, his 9th home run of the season. Lars Nootbaar, 10th, and Matthew Liberatore, very rock solid. He's given up 1 run in 6 innings and 71 pitches. So very nice performance out there. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball, again, this is a lot of the Monday games still pending as I am recording this, but I am favorites over the last 7 days. I've been dominant, 59-34 on the money line. That is about 63.5%. And if you're looking at the under rate, overall for the season, it's been rock solid. And I mean, even the last 7 days, 47 unders to 44 overs. So the games on Monday, many of them do look like they are going to be very, very overwhelming. But overall for the season, that under rate is 53%, 591 unders to 525 overs. Meanwhile, favorites, they're running at about 58.3%, 673 and 481 on the money line. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now. That's what we all got on Monday. Now let's take a look at Tuesday's games and some of the teams that our good friend Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the Rob's Best Bet show, is feeling bullish/bearish on. We'll talk about that next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Everybody, good love you, Las Vegas, for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as we've got Rob Donaldson aboard. He does such great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets, doing a great job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know that he's dialed into a little bit of everything, and a man that you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at RobDFB altogether. And Rob, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Greg. It's always great to talk ball with you, and we have a lot of fun storylines that developed over the past couple weeks here. I'm excited to jump into it.
Yep, no question about it. The Giants and what they've got with Rafael Devers, the Boston Red Sox, and what they might be doing moving forward. There's a lot of good, clean family fun. And just over this month of June, because we're about 3.5 weeks into this month. Has there been a team that you've had a little bit of change of heart on from the first 2 or so months of the season to now because of the way that they've either improved or declined?
There's a lot of teams that I think have kind of gone in opposite directions. And notably, I'll shine some praise at a team like the Baltimore Orioles, because are they probably out of the sort of like the playoff mix or the true contender mix? I would say probably more so than not, but they're playing a lot better baseball as of late. The bullpen has come along. Even a guy like a Charlie Morton in their rotation has come along, and their bats are starting to come alive against lefties and righties. I think the team that I've done the biggest flip on for, just a team that I didn't think was going to be a contender, but it has emerged into one, has to be the Tampa Bay Rays. I was really kind of curious on this team coming into the year. I thought they were going to be kind of league average, but there are so many bright spots when you look at what they're doing right now. And given the history of them doing the most with the least, almost to the extent of like the Brewers, I really do kind of want to buy into the Rays from here on out.
Oh, I'm right there with you on the Tampa Bay Rays. I think that this team is going to be very tremendous moving forward, and it just feels like they always go a little bit under the radar because they had a little bit of a less than tremendous year last year. But for the Tampa Bay Rays, I'm not sure how you take a look at this team, but what really stands out to me is the way that the hitting has been able to pick it up for them.
Yeah, and I think it obviously helps when you go from the Trop to the essentially Yankee Stadium South, and this very
Steinbrenner Field.
Yeah, it's a super hitter-friendly ballpark, and what has plagued the Rays over the past 4-year stretch when they have already been playing some competitive baseball, it was the fact that they couldn't hit. So they kind of aided themselves, almost like the Orioles changing the dimensions of their stadium, but the Rays actually just changed their entire stadium to sort of help their offensive approach, and I think that's a large part of it. And I also think that they're just kind of younger and more energetic around the bases, and they're just a really fun product to watch right now.
Yeah, they certainly are, and it's going to be interesting to see what we get on Tuesday, as it's going to be Taj Juncal, Milton Bradley for the Tampa Bay Rays going up against old Chris with K. Bubich for the Royals. And right now in this spot, we're finding the Royals about minus 135, minus 140 on the money line. How do you take a look at this game? Because I do want to be buying in a lot on the Rays, but I've really been loving what Chris with the K. Bubich has been able to do this season.
Yeah, Bubich has been absolutely fantastic. And when you're looking at Taj Bradley on the other side, he is somebody that I feel like is getting unnecessarily punished by runs just coming in one inning during his starts. And also, when you look at the Royals, this is a team that, especially when they're at home in the K, have just really struggled to score runs, period. I mean, this is one of the worst offenses in baseball. I do feel like for a guy like Taj Bradley, who's been kind of getting subject to that one bad inning, this might be the game that sort of gets him into a right mental state. And I think when you have two pitchers that could go out there for 6 or 7 innings and just absolutely shove, I really do love an under, especially when it's getting priced around the 8.5 type of line.
I'm even seeing some 9s out there as well, and I'm in agreement with you. I didn't think that this total should have been above 8, and I just talked about how much I like the Rays lineup, but for the Royals, they're averaging 2.9 runs per game at home. And
Right.
Have you ever seen such a stark difference? Because there were people accusing the Rays of the Royals of cheating at home and everything like that with their offense and the home and road splits. And this year they've been as bad as it gets with their offense at home.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if they're injecting young talent in the lineup, because Jack Caglione, one of the biggest prospects, one of the fastest rising prospects, comes up from AAA after just slugging nonstop. He's had one really promising outing, a lot of hard hits. He's one of those guys that I know is going to really blossom at some point in the year. But this whole lineup, when you look at, the Michael Garcias, the Bobby Witts, they've all had these little glimpses, Vinny Pasquantino, but they haven't really strung along these really impressive streaks that we're so used to with those types of names in the lineup. And I don't know if it's necessarily fixable, but right now it's a plague on that offense and really just a plague on the Royals.
Yeah, man, it has not been great to say the least. And I do like Chris with a K. Bubich. I do not like that offense. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. As joining me on the show, we do have one of our good friends, Rob Donaldson of the Rob's Best Bet Show, joining me here. And have you just been taking a look at a few teams and defaulting to unders? Like for me, it feels like the books have been setting way too high of totals for these Texas Rangers games all season long. And then with the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's just hard to take any sort of an over in any of their games because they're not hitting too.
Yeah, the Pirates are the worst team in baseball, coupled with a rotation that, it's crazy to say this, but the Pirates are a pitching factory, man. They had, obviously, Garrett Cole in the past. They've had Volquez in the past. They've had, guys like Skeens come up over the years, Jones over the last couple of years, and now Mitch Keller and Burrows are just randomly going out there for, 6 innings, 7 innings at a time and pitching really quality baseball, and it really doesn't feel like they can do a whole lot of wrong. And now Andrew Heaney out of nowhere is kind of having a resurgence year after being like a journeyman for over the last 10. I really do look at the Pirates in terms of that formula of, well, they can't score runs, they have great starting pitching. Through those first 5 frames, I think you're in a really good spot to, like, in your words, default on that under.
Yep, and we do have ourselves an interesting game that is going down on Tuesday between the Pirates and the Milwaukee Brewers. Freddie Peralta is a guy that I feel like has been due for some regression, and Andrew Heaney, who you mentioned, he has been regressing a little bit. I take a look at this total of 7.5, and I think that's very intriguing because with Andrew Heaney, he's been able to go out there, like you said, be able to limit the hard contact, unlike in the past, and for Freddie Peralta, though his ERA is good, I think that there might be a rude awakening from moving forward.
I think Freddie Peralta is one of those guys that's always going to have really good ERA numbers because he walks that fine line between striking out enough guys to get him out of danger, especially when there's 2 outs and he gives up those gapping doubles, but he's also subject to almost like that Jack Flaherty thing where the home runs are going to come start by start for Freddie. And for that reason, against a team like the Pirates, I'm not too worried about that offensive firepower to be unleashed. Certainly there's some guys in that lineup that can take Freddie deep, but in this particular matchup, I think he's going to be able to do enough through the first 5, 6, or 7 innings to really keep the Pirates off the board. And on the Pirates on the other side with Andrew Heaney, I think he's a perfect type of arm to mitigate a lot of the bats in that Brewers lineup. I would be worried about Churio. I'd be worried about Rhys Hoskins, but for the most part, he's keeping balls on the ground when they're hit hard. And for that reason, I actually do like that under of 7.5.
Yeah, with regards to this Milwaukee Brewers team too, I want to get your thoughts here because I talked about it a little bit on this show a day ago. They're averaging 3.6 runs per game at home, 5.6 runs per game away from home. Have you ever seen a more strange home and road split than the Brewers offense? Because it makes absolutely no sense because Miller Park, better known as American Family Field, it's always Miller Park to me, but that said, it's not like a pitcher's ballpark. It's not really a hitter's ballpark. It's relatively neutral. It should not cause these splits.
And this has been the MO of the Brewers for ever. I don't know why they are like this, where they are such a roller coaster offensively, and also what's kind of aiding those road numbers. I know it's a blip in terms of the entire season approach, but they went out to Philadelphia, a very hitters-friendly ballpark on the road, and scored like 50 runs in 3 games. And, certainly when that happens, that's going to skew some things, but to your point, there are a bunch of guys in this lineup that at home really don't rake the way you would expect them to rake. And, it is a very neutral friendly kind of ballpark in Miller Park, but man, there's a lot of power to be had. And I never really know with the Brewers because, again, this is their MO. They have some really talented hitters. They have guys that go on crazy streaks, and they never can really piece it together for an entire season's great offensive output, especially when they get in the playoffs. That's where it's like, okay, they're relying on their pitching, but can they get a hit? And a lot of the times, I don't know where the hitting just disappears to.
Yeah, I mean, man, with the Milwaukee Brewers, they do a nice job being able to move lines, stealing some bags, but sometimes it's just very touch and go. And I need to address this. I'm not sure if you've been following Frankie Montas and what he's done at the minor league level, but he gets his season debut for the Mets against the Atlanta Braves. And for the Braves, initially, I thought minus 140 to minus 150 was too high on their money line. Then I saw that Frankie Montas said 6 rehab starts and a 12.05 ERA. What do we make out of that? Because I recognize that these rehab starts are not an end-all be-all, but Frankie Montas has never really been great in his career, aside from like 1 or 2 years with the Oakland A's, and this guy looked just like a complete wreck in his rehab starts.
Yeah, and I will say, like, sometimes when they go through these rehab starts, they're not just trying to go out there and be a dominant pitcher. They're trying to go out there and work on specific pitches, and even if it's a sequence of a count that doesn't make sense, they'll still throw it to get those kind of game reps, kind of like spring training for a lot of these guys who then go on to just be absolute gems throughout the entire year. But the last time that we saw Frankie Montas, he was getting shelled at 2 different stops. And yeah, to your point, when you have a 12 ERA in minor league ball, it's not a great, like, it's not a really optimistic sign to be like, all right, I want to back that guy in his first start back in the major leagues. And yeah, the Mets are a disaster right now. We'll see how this game goes against the Braves, but I wouldn't be eager to back them at sort of not a pick 'em price, but that one kind of like plus 125 area. I would probably need a lot more value going up against Spencer Strider.
Yeah, and Strider's looked really good in his last two starts as well, so I am right there with you on that front, and I think that this one is so interesting. How do we go about this Tigers versus Athletics game? Because right now with the Tigers, they're getting priced to the moon whenever Tariq Skubal's out there, very rightfully so, but I mean, it's right around about minus 275, minus 280. Total on this game is 7, and I talked about home and road splits. Luis Severino, 0.93 road ERA, north of a 6 ERA at home. I have to think that that irons out just a little bit here, so I think this might be one of the most interesting games on the board.
Yeah, especially when you consider that, Comerica is one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks, or the most pitcher-friendly ballpark in comparison to Sacramento, which has just been a hitter's haven. And when you look at the A's lineup, this is a very fun, dynamic lineup that can cause a lot of these top starting pitchers some issues. And Tariq Skubal over his last 4 starts, although he's been a fantastic pitcher, and he's going to continue to be a fantastic pitcher, he's going to be right there in the Cy Young talks throughout the end of the season, barring not getting hurt. But when you look at Tariq Skubal, he has had a little bit of an issue as of late with giving up a little bit of harder contact. And when you look at the A's lineup, there are a ton of righties near the top and the bottom of this lineup right now that are hitting baseballs really hard. And they play that pesky style of, if they get a guy on base via walk or via single, he's going to end up on second, and then they're going to get him to third, and then they're going to hit the sac fly. And I really do feel like when you have a valued line like this, take a chance on the A's through the first 5 on the money line. Directly kind of go against the narrative that Skubal is going to go out there and just shove. I think the A's could score a couple runs here, and that might be enough to either get you a push or an outright winner.
Yeah, and I just take a look at this low total of 7, and I think that Luis Severino can't maintain a 0.93 ERA. Like, I recognize that these Sacramento A's pitchers are going to have demonstrative home and road splits right around about 7 times higher with his ERA at home versus on the road. That has to iron out just a little bit more. So I'm right there with you. I'm going to be taking a look at that over. And how about we take a look at Chase Burns making his MLB debut for the Reds, going up against the Yankees. Total is anywhere between 9 and 9.5, and the Reds are right around about plus 140, plus 145. And typically guys in their MLB debut are not ones I want to back, but I mean, Chase Burns was fantastic at Wake Forest, was tremendous at the minor league level. I don't know if he's going to be as good as Paul Skeens. That would be asking a lot, but I think this guy might be the real deal.
If anything, Chase Burns, is going to be one of those guys that by the end of the year is going to be a pitcher that you probably want to frequently back if everything pans out the way I expect it to. But it's always a roll of the dice, banking on a guy in game 1. Now, when you are looking at Carlos Rodon on the other side, that's where I think this total comes into play, because Carlos Rodon has been absolutely fantastic this season. And when you look at the Reds lineup versus lefties, especially over the last month, they have been absolutely abysmal. They can't get on the board at all because everybody in this lineup that can hit is hitting from the left side of the plate. And so it creates this kind of dynamic here when you are looking at a total, whether it's through the first 5 or through the full game, that I think is going to plummet under, especially when you're looking at Great America Ballpark that has that kind of notorious billing of being a hitter-friendly ballpark, and the Yankees having this billing of being the Bronx Bombers. I think this can go potentially way under in something like a 4-1 type game.
Yeah, and I think that this is just too high of a total. Rodon has been rock solid on the road. Chase Burns, I think, is going to be dealing in. The Reds are surprisingly scoring fewer runs per game when they're at home rather than away from home. So that's been a fascination as well. And Rob, is there anything else that you're taking a look at on the board for this Tuesday?
Yeah, there's a lot of games that I'm really intrigued by, but when you look at this Toronto-Cleveland series, I think this is going to be a very pivotal series for kind of the trajectory of both of these teams in the course of their season. But Eric Lauer has been really fun, and I don't know how long this can potentially last, but all the underlying numbers are suggesting that this isn't just like an over-accomplishment or he's getting lucky start by start. It feels kind of manageable, and the Cleveland Guardians cannot hit lefties whatsoever, especially a guy like Eric Lauer who is going out there and just dealing. I feel like the Blue Jays at a pick'em price on the money line in this game are a complete steal. I think they could win this one going away.
This could be one that gets a little bit out of hand, and I do think that they should be able to go out there, get the job done, just like you do, Rob. You do such an amazing job being able to gauge this great game that we all know and love of baseball, and I know you're hard at work taking a look at so many different things this time of year. So let the good people at home know what's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Well, hey, Greg, it's always a blast talking ball with you. And for those who want to follow my bets on a nightly basis, you can do so at Twitter/X at RobDFB, and also on my YouTube account as well, which is just my name, Rob Donaldson. But as always, Greg, I appreciate you having me on, man.
I am so glad to get you aboard always, Rob. You do such a great job being able to gauge this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Solid slate for Tuesday, and Rob gave some great insight. So big thanks to Rob for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I'll give you picks and analysis of every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
The rural way of life is about making everyone feel at home. Tractor Supply chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform intelligent customer service. Together, we put the power of AI to work across 2,200 stores, keeping things running seamlessly inside, curbside, and countryside. This is elevated customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always a pleasure to be joined by Rob Donaldson. He does such great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets. Every single time he joins me, lends such amazing insights, and did so once again today. So a big thanks to Rob for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we are going to be going in Las Vegas tradition order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and the Interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with 951, 952 on the betting board? It is the Atlanta Braves, and they are going to be on the road facing off against the New York Mets. It is the season debut of one Mr. Frankie Montas for the Mets, and Spencer Strider is on the bump for the Braves. The Braves are between minus 139 to minus 145 favorites, and between plus 122 to a plus 130. That number on the Mets, the total is 9, over and under both at minus 110. I am going to be fading Frankie Montas. Like, when I initially saw this number come out, I was thinking, why in the heck is Frankie Montas such a big underdog? I recognize it's his first start of the season, but if you dive in and if you watch his tape from his minor league rehab starts, which I sat down and did before I did this podcast, good grief, he looks terrible. 12.05 ERA in 6 minor league rehab assignments. He's giving up 3.9 home runs per 9 innings, 4.8 walks per 9 innings. He's dreadful. He is beyond dreadful. He didn't even have a good last start or two leading up to this. I don't know how he's getting called up right now. They just have to be completely out of arms right now because he has been horrible. So that's not good to say the least. And for Spencer Strider, while it has been a less than savory year for him, he had his team lose each out of his first 5 starts. I mean, he's been rounding into form. He's allowed just 1 run in his last 12 innings across his last 2 starts. Team was able to pick up the W in both of them, was able to shut down the Mets that had 21 strikeouts in those 12 innings as well. So it took him a little bit of time to be able to find his bearings. Looks like he's been able to do so now, and his fielding independence is starting to drop below his ERA of a 3.89 for the season. And for the Atlanta Braves, this has been a team that has been relatively league average with regards to run creation, but now you've got Ronald Acuna Jr. just really cooking for this team as he has been able to come in, give this team north of a 450 on base, 8 home runs in less than a month, so you'll love to see that. Matt Olson is up to 15 bombs. He's done a nice job, move the line, give you north of a 350 on base. Austin Riley has been able to give you 12 home runs. Marcell Ozuna continues to be north of a 355 with regards to that on base as well. Could use a little bit more of Michael Harris, Ozzie Albies, Sean Murphy. These guys have not hit for a ton of average, but all in all, it's a lineup that is coming back into form, and for the New York Metropolitans, it has been a very good top end of the lineup. Brandon Nimmo, Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, all these 15 home runs, all hitting at least a 250, and Alonso darn near about a 385 on base, along with Soto. For the bottom of the fold, Jeff McNeil has been able to give you 8 home runs at a limited sample size, but catcher spot has been rough with Francisco Alvarez now being at the minor league level. Luis Torrens has regressed. You haven't been able to get a lot out of Brett Beatty as well. And for the Mets, the biggest attribute that they have that is positive is their bullpen. This has been a top 5 team with regards to bullpen area throughout much of the season, now hovering closer to about 6/7th after the weekend. But Jose Buto as a long guy has given you a sub 3.5 ERA. You've had Oscar Barzobin, Reed Garrett, Edwin Diaz all be able to fly a sub 2.75 ERA as well. And then on the flip side, you've got an Atlanta Braves team that, it has been a little bit adventurous with the bullpen, with Desbel Hernandez being on the injury list. Añel de los Santos is starting to fall down the toilet bowl, but Aaron Bummer, Dylan Lee, they've been able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA. Dylan Dodd has actually been pretty solid in this bullpen as well, but I do think that Spencer Strider goes out there. He does just enough to be able to hold this total under, but I think that Frankie Montas is in for a really rough first start. I set the Braves at a minus 158, which I didn't think that I was going to do, but Frankie Montas has been that bad. If you're looking to lay a run off right now on that Mets run line, a lot of places they have this off the board, but you're able to get about a plus 114 on the Atlanta Braves laying a run off. I'd be willing to take that plus money on the run line with the Braves, / if you can get a better money line like a minus 130, we'll be looking there. So going to be back at the Braves in some form or capacity, and like this 9 under. 953, 954 on the card. It is the Pittsburgh Pirates walking the plank to Milwaukee to face off against the Brewers. Freddie Peralta is on the bump for the Crew, and Andrew Heaney is on the bump for the Buccos. Right now, that initial FanDuel opener has the Brewers at a plus 112 on the run line. If you're looking more at their money line price, that's between minus 190 and minus 210, and between plus 170 to plus 176. That number on Pittsburgh, 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 115, under is minus 105. I'm going to take a plus 103 or better on the Brewers money line, and I am going to go over on the 7.5. I still believe that Freddie Peralta is doing for a little bit of regression. His swing and miss stuff is actually down from where it's been throughout his career. He is posting up a career best 2.76 ERA, but that fielding dependent, more around about a 3.98. He's been giving up 3.5 walks, so only about 9.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. Sometimes has been laboring through a few of his starts as well, albeit the walks have been much better with 2 walks or fewer in each out of his last 3 starts. And for Andrew Heaney, after he got off to a really nice start to the season, he's starting to have those issues that have plagued him throughout his career of giving up the deep ball, starting to creep back up. Only 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, lowest it's been in about a decade or so for him. He's given up 3 walks per 9, up to about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, which is still better than what it's been throughout his career, but now 3.94 ERA, 4.42 fielding dependent, and he has been rough to say the least. Over his last 5 starts, he has given up, I believe now, a combined 18 runs, so not what you want to see there. Now for the Pittsburgh Pirates, top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA over the last 30 days. David Bednar has been able to improve, sub 3.5 ERA. Chase Shogurt, when he's been out there, has been solid. Dennis Santana, Caleb Ferguson, these guys are doing a pretty rock solid job, but this is a Pittsburgh Pirates lineup that out of 30 teams, they are currently 30th in the big leagues. it is, as I'm recording this, June 23rd. You're going to hear this on June 24th, and you've got 3 guys with north of 4 home runs on the roster. Like, come on! Oniel Cruz has been able to give you a double-figure amount of bombs. You've had Brian Reynolds be able to go deep 8 times, and then Andrew McCutchen, he's been able to give you a bit of something, but even with Reynolds along Cruz, both of these guys are in a 226 or lower end. Then you've got likes of Tommy Pham, Alexander Canario, Henry Davis, Jared Trollo, all these guys that can't move the line and are powerless. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, talk about one of the funkiest home and road splits I've ever seen. They're averaging 2 runs per game fewer at home rather than on the road. They're averaging nearly 5.6 runs per game away from home, 3.6 runs per game at home. Like, you tell me how that's possible, because it's very strange. Miller Park / American Family Field, it's always Miller Park to me. It's always been not necessarily a hitter's ballpark, but not necessarily a pitcher's ballpark, so I'm confused. But do have a quartet of guys in Jackson Trio, Christian Yelich, Bryce Frank, Sal Frelick. I'll give you at least 12 stolen bases this season. A lot of guys give you between about a 340 to a 360 on base, as you've got that with Isaac Collins, Bryce Terang, Frelick, William Contreras, Rhys Hoskins, who's up to 12 home runs, so they've been solid. And Christian Yelich, all of a sudden hitting for about a 260. He's really been able to up his game recently. Those strikeouts have been up a little bit as well. You could use a little bit more out of Caleb Durbin in the infield, but he's been able to give you a bit more of something. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, it's been a little bit of a rough bullpen this year because they were banking on Yopayan Elvis Piero to be able to be as solid as they were a season ago. That did not happen, so now they're looking at Aaron Ashby, who just came off the injury list as a bit of a long guy, and he's been solid. He and Abner Uribe, sub 2 ERAs. You've got Nick Mears along Trevor McGill, who've been able to hold down the fort as well. little bit of roll of the dice when you get into Jared Koenig and guys like this, but the Brewers do look a little bit better with their bullpen, but I do think that both of these starter pitchers doing for some regression. Semi-total 7.9, so I like the over and at a plus 103 or better, like that Brewers run line. 955, 956 on the card. The Chicago Cubs are on the road against the St. Louis Cardinals as Eric Fetty Wap is going to be getting the start for the Cardinals, and James Taillon is on the bump for the Cardinals. Now, this is a game that's presently off the board. I am not quite sure why this game is off the board, but this game is presently off the board. Perhaps someone got injured, but if you do indeed get this pitching matchup, I set Taillon and the Cubs at a minus 118 on the money line. I'd be willing to take a plus 144 or higher on the run line, and then would need at least plus 119 to take a shot on the Cardinals. And I set my total to wear a 9 or less. I'm looking at the over, a 9.5 or higher to the under for the St. Louis Cardinals. It's been a little bit of interest in the bullpen with Ryan Helsley blowing 5 saves thus far this season. That has been a bit less than tremendous. And with regards to Eric Fetty, he's just not really a guy that instills a lot of confidence in the way that he just doesn't get a lot of swings and misses. As right now for the season, he is at right around about 5.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's giving up darn near 4 walks per 9. To his credit, he's done a good job of being able to keep the ball in the yard, especially at home. At home, he's given up just 2 home runs in 33 innings. ERA, though, at home has been ballooning up to north of 4, so that's a little bit of an issue, and he does have to go up against a bunch in the Chicago Cubs that has been right there at the top of the big leagues in terms of runs per game, and you just got a lot of power on this team. About 6 different guys with at least 11 home runs, including Seiya Suzuki, Pete Crow Armstrong, 20-plus bombs apiece. For Crow Armstrong, he has been so good for the team with his 23 stolen bases. Kyle Tucker, 15 bombs, 395 on base, 18 stolen bases. You've got Nico Horner move the line, hitting north of 275. Carson Kelly's cooled off a little bit, but still giving you 350 on base. Michael Bullish, 12 bombs, 365 on base. So you got a lot of guys who are just able to mash in for the Cubs. This has been a unit that has been very good with their bullpen recently, albeit they had that rough weekend where nobody could pitch in just some of the most difficult, shall we say, conditions that you're going to find in all baseball. But still, you've got the likes of Daniel Palencia, Drew Pomeranz, Caleb Theobar, Brad Keller, all giving you a sub-225 ERA, and for James Taillon, the biggest thing for him is just keeping the ball in the yard. He has given up 1.9 home runs per 9 innings, 384 ERA, fielding independence approaching 5 with those strikeouts being only at about a 7, and then, again, giving up so many home runs. He's actually given up fewer walks than home runs, 17 walks, 18 home runs this far this season, but the good news is you've got a St. Louis Cardinals bunch that they're really not slugging out the deep ball right now. They are currently in the bottom 7 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. You've got Wilson Contreras, Alon Nolan, and Arenado give you 10 bombs apiece. These are 2 guys that just aren't what they used to be. Lars Nootbaar is hitting below a 235 with 9 home runs. Nolan Gorman, there's no consistency there. Victor Scott has had a little bit of a tough time as well. You do have Brendan Donovan, who's been able to above a 300 long with Alec Burleson, and for the Cardinals guys not named Ryan Helsley, it's actually been pretty solid in the bullpen. Steven Matz, I recognize that he had some fumbles over the weekend, but still a sub-3.5 ERA is a pretty solid long guy. And then you've got the likes of Kyle Leahy, Jojo Romero, Phil Matone, Riley O'Brien, who've been able to give you a sub-3 ERA as well. So interesting circumstance here. Plus 119 or higher looking at the Cardinals, minus 117 or better the Cubs, and then 9 or less looking at the over 9.5 or higher the under. 907, 908 on the betting board is the LA Dodgers, and they're going to be on the road facing up against the Colorado Rockies. One, Ramon Marquez is on the bump for the Rockies, and is currently to be determined on the bump for the Dodgers. This game is presently off the board. When I was looking on a lot of the projections, it was lining up to be Justin Robelski, and that typically means a little bit of a bullpen game, as Robelski has been utilized a little bit more as a bulk guy. So I would anticipate an opener and then Robelski coming in. And I think that is very big that you do see an opener for Justin Robelski, because he's got some very demonstrative numbers. If you take a look at him from when he's been starting versus when he's been out there as a little bit more of a bulk guy, is overall for the season, Robelski is posting up a 5.18 ERA. That fielding independent, though, more in the neighborhood of 422. He has given up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, but has kept the walks down. He has been giving up only about 2.2 walks per 9 innings, but you take a look at what Robelski has been able to do when he's been coming out of the bullpen. He has actually been really good. A 135 bullpen ERA in his 3 appearances, 13 out of the 3rd innings. In his 2 starts, he has been absolutely rocked for a 982 ERA. So if you do get him in some sort of bulk role, I'd be setting the Dodgers right around about minus $3 on the money line. I'd be willing to go up to $2 on the run line. And for Omar Marquez, he's had a nice couple of starts for him, and he was doing for a little bit of positivity maybe prior to these last two starts where he's been able to have some triumphs, but he is still giving up just hits aplenty. Right now his hits per 9 innings rate is at an 11.9, 6.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he does get some soft contact, only giving up about 1 home run per 9 innings, but 6.11 ERA, has given up a combined 1 run in his last two starts, but he has been much worse when he's been at home rather than on the road, and you're just going to find that with Coors Field in general. But that said, with the Rockies, actually do have a few okay bullpen pieces. Jimmy Erga, Jake Burr, Victor Valdick have been able to give you a sub-4 ERA, and for the LA Dodgers, they certainly are going to be leaning on that bullpen quite a bit in this game, but I mean, for the Dodgers, being able to get back Michael Kopech off the injured list, along Kirby Yates, that's rock solid. Now, Yates along with Tanner Scott just have not necessarily panned out for the team thus far this season. Both of these guys have been supplying you with north of a 3.75 ERA, but Lou Trevino has been a nice find, sub 3.35 ERA. Jack Dreyer as a long guy that could be looking to him here, a little bit north of 3 ERA. He's able to hold down the fort as well. And for the LA Dodgers, this is a Death Star lineup as you've been able to get absolutely massive production out of Shohei Ohtani, 26 bombs, 390 on base. Andy Paz has really come on with his nearly 300 average, 16 home runs himself. Teoscar Hernandez, he's the RBI man with 50 RBI, 14 bombs. Tommy Edman has been in and out of the lineup all season long, but he gives you some solid power. Will Smith gets jiggy with it with north of 4 on base, and Freddie Freeman has moved the line. And for the Colorado Rockies, obviously a better team at home rather than on the road with regards to their offense, but it's not as if they've completely lit the world on fire with regards to their offense at home. They're hovering right around about 19th in the big leagues with just under 4.2 runs per game when they are at home this far this season, so that's been a little bit of an issue. You have had Hunter Goodman be able to supply the team with 14 home runs this season. Most of those home runs, very interestingly though, have actually come on the road. Now you've got the demonstrative splits of Ryan McMahon, who's sitting at 222 overall for the season, but when you get this man at home, well, he has been very much at home, as he has been able to give the team more like a 400 on base with 8 home runs when he has been at home. Mickey Moniak, 6 bombs out there, Coors Field, 330 on base. Jordan Beck, Brendan Doyle, both are being able to supply the team with north of a 265 average, so I do think that this is going to be a high-scoring game. Somebody told at 12.7, 12.5 or less, looking at the over 13 or higher to the under, and I'd be willing to go $2 on the Dodgers run line. I would need at least a plus 309 to take a shot on the Rockies. 959, 960 on the betting board. It is the Slam Diego Padres, and they're going to be playing us to the Washington Nationals. We do know that it's going to be Trevor Williams on the bump for the Nationals. It is all to be determined on the bump for the Slam Diego Padres, so this is a game that is presently off the board, but it looks as though it should be Ryan Burgett who's getting the start for them, and if you do indeed get Ryan Burgett, I'm going to be setting the Padres as a very demonstrative favorite. I set them at a minus 219, would be willing to go up to a minus 109 on a run line. We need at least plus 220 to take a shot on the Nationals, and made a total of an 8.2, an 8 or less looking at the over, 8.5 or higher to the under, and this should line up for a Burgett start, and he has been really good for this team. As for Ryan Burgett, he's not necessarily going to be going out there and getting like 100 billion strikeouts or anything like that, but I mean, he's just doing a really good job inducing some soft contact, keeping things out in front of him. He saw a long relief appearance or a few prior to becoming a starter here, and he's been supplying the team with 2 home runs allowed in 24 innings. His walks per 9 rate is just a hair above 3. He's getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but in his 4 starts, he's allowed a combined 5 runs. And I mean, it's not against pushover teams. These have all been road starts against the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, Brewers, and Giants. So I give a lot of credit to what he's been able to do, and now he's out there in a pitcher-friendly environment in Petco. Meanwhile, for Trevor Williams, really shaky 5.54 ERA. Now, fielding dependent is more than a point and a half better, as he's giving up only 1 home run per 9 innings. He's giving up just a skoge above 2 walks per 9. Not a strikeout artist. He's only going to give you about 6.7, 6.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but now 2 earned runs are fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts, so we're starting to see things turn around for him. And for this Washington Nationals lineup, it has been one of very much intrigue because James Wood has been able to give you really, really good wood, as this guy's right now supplying you with 21 home runs, north of 375 on base, so absolutely love what you're seeing there. Additionally, you've been able to get good production out of CJ Abrams, who's been able to give you 11 home runs, 350 on base. Nathaniel Lowe, he's got 13 home runs. He's not necessarily moving the line, and you've got a few guys like that. Dylan Cruz is on the injured list, has been rough. Josh Bell, he's only been able at about $192. And then you've got Luis Garcia, who's been moving the line, hitting for about 270. Not necessarily a ton of power, but here's where the Washington Nationals really go long. Bullpen ERA that is currently dead last in the National League, and I mean, other than the closer and Kyle Finnegan, and Andrew Chafin's been okay as well. You really don't have anyone else that gives you a sub 3.6 ERA. The likes of Zach Brzezinski, Jackson Rutledge, Jose Ferrer, Ryan Lotus, man. You got a lot of guys that are just not providing good innings, and for the San Diego Padres, this has been a top 8 team. With regards to bullpen ERA, you've got a lot of mix and match guys like Yuki Matsui, Adrian Motohone, Jason Adam. These guys give you a sub-3 ERA. Now, for Robert Suarez, it's been a rough last, we're going to call it 10 or so days with a pair of blown saves, but Jeremiah Estrada, even though we've seen things go a little bit northward for him, I do think that he's going to continue to hold down the fort for this team as well. And for the San Diego Padres, it's actually been a relatively pedestrian lineup this far this season, as they're right around about league average in terms of runs per game. Tree of guys, though, that have given you at least 12 home runs: Gavin Sheets, Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado. Problem is, either the lone 3 guys on the roster run with 5 bombs. Padres are a bottom 6 team in the big leagues with regards to home runs on a per at-bat basis. Xander Bogaerts are starting to pick it up, hitting above 250. Jackson Merrill continues to hit about a 300 as well, but you could use a little bit more on the outfield spots with the likes of Brandon Lockridge, Tyler Wade and company, and catcher spot has just been all sorts of issues there. But I do think that for Bertrand, he's able to give you a nice start, 8 or less, looking at the over, 8.5 or higher, the under, with Padres willing to go up to -109 on that run line, plus 220 or higher, looking at the Nats. 961, 962 on the betting board. The Miami Marlins are on the road against the San Francisco Giants. Justin Verlander is on the bump for the Giants, and Cal Quantrill goes for Miami. Miami is a underdog of anywhere between plus 158 to a plus 165. Meanwhile, minus 174 to minus 190 is that number on the Giants. 7.5 is the total. The over is minus 125, and the under is plus 105. You're looking to lay a run half with the Giants. You're going to be finding that at a plus 118, and I was willing to go up to a minus 114, so I do like this run line spot. Now, for Justin Verlander, it's not necessarily been the year that he was hoping for. Obviously, a little bit more of an advanced age for him, but that said, still has been able to give you about a 4.45 ERA. He's giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings and a little bit under 8 strikeouts per 9 innings as well. So obviously some concern there, but I do feel like you need to have a lot of concern with Cal Quantrill right now, rocking a 5.68 ERA. He did have an immaculate inning earlier in the season, so yay verily on that front, but also with what we've seen out of Cal Quantrill, it's been really rough on the road. When he's hit the road, he's right now supplying north of a 5.60 ERA. He's giving up in the neighborhood of about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, so there's not a lot to be had there, and then the bullpen just has not been able to give you a ton. Ronnie Enriquez still has a sub 3.50 ERA, but he's been a little bit rough recently. Anthony Bender has been rock solid for them, but when you're relying upon guys like Tyler Phillips, who's been dealing with a little bit of injury, Lake Bakar, guys like this, they just have not been able to get a lot of good long relief, or a lot of good short relief for that matter, as they had Jesus Sunoco give up a bunch of runs towards the early part of the season, and that's where this team is really outgunned. For the Miami Marlins, currently they are 23rd in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA at a 4.50. The Giants, 2.63 bullpen ERA, more than 0.6 points clear of the next best team in the big leagues, as you've got Eric Miller, Randy Rodriguez, Camilo Duvall, Tyler Rogers, all give you a sub 2 ERA. Right now, you've been able to get good production out of Spencer Bivens as a long guy as well, and now you've got Rafael Devers in the fold. As we know, 15 plus bombs out of him. He should be able to continue to be able to supply for this team, and additionally, you've been able to get really good production as well out of someone like a Mike Yastrzemski, who's been able to give you about a 3.50 on base. Casey Schmidt did have that bad error in the game against the Colorado Rockies like 2 weeks ago, but he's actually been able to do a pretty admirable job of filling in for Matt Chapman. Eloy Ramos has been able to give you a double-figure amount of bombs, and for the Miami Marlins, this team is in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. Offense has been a little bit better away from home, as Miami is a very pitcher-friendly ballpark, but Kyle Stowers, Augustin Ramirez, 11 home runs apiece, and you got one other player north of 6 bombs. That'd be Jesus Sanchez, who's been able to give you about 320 on base. Dave Myers is moved line hitting above 300, and you do have quite a few guys that are okay at finding a way on, like Xavier Edwards, hits for no power whatsoever, but a 363 on base, hit for a cycle last year against the Milwaukee Brewers. You've been able to have Liam Hicks be able to hit about a 280 as well, but I do think that for Justin Verlander, goes out there, holds it down in a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. I do think that the Giants win this game by multiple runs. I'm going to be willing to lay that run line of the Giants, set it at a minus 114, and with regards to the total, I feel like the 7.5 is just too low. I set my total more on an 8.2, so I do like the over. 913, 914 on the betting board. The Walker Texas Rangers, if they're facing off against the Baltimore Orioles. We do know that it's going to be Charlie Morton for Baltimore, and this should be a Jacob Latz appearance for the Texas Rangers. We just don't know if he's going to be a starter or if he's going to be a bulk guy. That's why this game is off the board. But assuming that Latz gets a bulk appearance / a start, I did set the Rangers at a minus 111 on the money line. We'll go minus 110 there, plus 112 or higher. Looking at the Orioles, and then set a total of 9.6, 9.5 or less to the over, 10 or higher to the under. Now, I know that I'm playing a very dangerous game with thinking that there's going to be runs in a Walker Texas Rangers game, because, man, these guys are in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of runs per game, but boy, do I want all in on fading Charlie Morton right now. As for Charlie Morton, he's looked a little bit better in his last few appearances, but and you're still staring down the gun barrel of a guy that is 41 years old and someone who is rocking a 5.64 ERA, now more of a 4.46 fielding dependent, but I mean, even with his 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, 4.3 walks, 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings, to his credit, he's actually given up 1 run or fewer in 3 out of his last 4 starts and 2 runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5. I just don't feel like this is going to be long lasting. I do think that he's going to give up quite a bit of hard contact against the Texas Rangers team that has actually gotten their offense going a little bit more away from them. 2 weeks ago in that series against the Minnesota Twins, they put up a pair of 16 spots, and for Texas, you do have guys that are able to find a way on. Is Josh Smith along with Sam Haggerty, both hitting above a 275. It doesn't sound like much, but Adolis Garcia and Marcus Semien now both hitting at 225 or better. That's helping the team out a little bit. Wyatt Langford spent a little bit of time out of the lineup over the weekend. He's back. He's giving you 13 home runs. Now, Corey Seager has just been awful for this team. He has to be dealing with injury or something like that, but you've had Josh Young be able to give you a little bit of production, and Jake Berger as they rise up as well. And for Baltimore, this is a lineup that is finally getting healthy, as Colton Cowser has been dealing with injury all season long. You get him back, you're able to get back as well. Someone like a Jordan Westbrook, though, he's back to being day-to-day, so we'll see his status. But Ramon Laureano has been able to give you north of a 325 on base, 9 bombs. Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Alday, these two guys are finding a way to move the line, and even Ramon Urias has been able to above a 250. I really like what I'm seeing of Ryan O'Hearn, 387 on base, double-figure amount of bombs, so I mean, he's been solid, and you got a Baltimore Orioles bullpen that has been not tremendous, to say the least, currently in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Brian Baker has been pretty rock solid all season long, but we saw him have a rough weekend as he, along with Felix Bautista, they're on there as well. Keegan Aiken have been able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA, but Andrew Kittredge north of a 5 ERA. Gregory Soto, Seranthony Dominguez, they're both below now a 4 ERA, but I don't have a lot of faith in them. And then for the Rangers, this has been a top 10 team with regards to their bullpen ERA. A lot of guys have been able to come in, give you a sub 3 ERA and hold down the fort, like a Hobie Milner, Luke Jackson, Chris Martin. These guys have been pretty rock solid for this team. And I will say Jackson had a relatively rough start to the season, so he's up to a 3.75 ERA, but he's been able to find it now. And I do think that with Robert Garcia, you're going to be in good hands here, along with Jacob Latz. And what he's been able to show as a long guy is, for Latz, he mostly has been going like 2 to 3 innings, but in his last appearance, he was able to go 5+, did a nice job of being able to hold it down there, and I think that this guy is going to be very reliable moving forward. As for Latz, overall for the season, he's given up a little bit over a home run per 9 innings, 9 punch-outs per 9, 3.26 ERA. Fielding dependent is a little bit higher than that because he's given up darn near 4 walks per 9 innings, but I think that the Rangers get the job done here. Willing to lay up to a -110 with the Rangers, plus 112 or higher. Looking at the O's, and then 9.5 or less, like the over 10 or higher or the under. 965, 966 on the betting board. The Toronto Blue Jays are on the road facing up against the Cleveland Guardians, as Eric Lauer is going to be on the bump for the Jays, and Logan Allen goes for Cleveland. Cleveland does find themselves as a very small favorite of anywhere between -112 to a -104. Meanwhile, you're going to be finding anywhere between -105 to a -110 on the Toronto Blue Jays, so 8.5 to 9 is the total. The 8.5 has overjuice of -125, the under is plus 105, and on the 9, the under is between -115 to a -120, the over is between even and -105, and I did set my total at 8.6. I'm going to be looking at a 9 under, just because with the Toronto Blue Jays, this team has not been able to crank out the Powerball all season long. You've got a bunch that has been in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, so that does scare me off a little bit with regards to that total. That said, I do think that for the Blue Jays, they're going to be able to get a good start out of Eric Lauer as well, as Eric Lauer has been able to give you a sub 250 ERA. Not necessarily some sort of power pitcher or anything like that, but I still remember even a few years ago with the Milwaukee Brewers, he was able to be rock solid and stable, and has been able to do a solid job in terms of just not beating himself. He's been able to keep the hard contact down, he's been able to keep the walks down, as he's giving up 1 home run and 2.8 walks per 9 innings, and that swing and miss stuff is starting to come back to him. Right around about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, and has allowed 2 earned runs or fewer, and I believe all but 1 appearance thus far this season, as not a lot of them have been very lengthy appearances. I do believe that he has won 5 innings or fewer in every one of his appearances, but that said, for Logan Allen, it has been a little bit up down all around for him, as he comes in having given up just a lot of just general walks for the Cleveland Guardians. Right now, 4.1 walks per 9 innings, only about 6.8 strikeouts per 9, 4.21 ERA, 4.58 fielding dependent, albeit he has given up 2 runs or fewer, and now 3 out of his last 4 starts. So he's been looking a little bit better recently, but I mean, what doesn't help him out is the fact that this bullpen isn't quite what it was a season ago. Emmanuel Clase is rocking north of a 3.5 ERA. Now you've had 2 really good guys in Cade Smith, along with Hunter Gaddis, be able to come in, give you a sub 250 ERA. These guys have been strikeout machines, but the likes of Tim Aaron, Jacob Junis, they just have not been what they were able to get out of the likes of Eric Sabrowski and company from from a season ago. And for this Cleveland Guardians bottom of the lineup, it's been absolutely terrible. And that's a big reason why this has been one of the lowest run scoring teams in all of baseball. As a matter of fact, you take a look at the Cleveland Guardians, only averaging about 3.7 runs per game at home. That is in the bottom 6 in all of baseball. Even though you've got Jose Ramirez, who's able to give you 13 plus home runs, hitting above a 300. Stephen Kwan is hitting a 300. And even Carlos Santana hasn't been amazing, but he's been able to give you about a 340 to a 350 on base. But when you've got all these guys that have just not been good at the bottom of the fold, they had to send John Kensey Noel along with Brian Rocchio down to the minor league levels because he stunk. But I mean, Kyle Manzardo, Nolan Jones, David Fry when he's actually seen appearances because he's been injured all season, Bo Naylor, Will Wilson, all these guys hitting a 217 or lower. Manzardo is providing 11 home runs, but not necessarily moving the line for this team. And then on the flip side, you got yourself a bunch in the Toronto Blue Jays, in which it's been hot and cold for them all season long. The plate, you still have guys that are finding a way on base. Bo Bichette is up to 11 home runs to be able to pace away. And then Vlad Guerrero Jr., George Springer, 10 home runs apiece. For Springer, 350 on base. Guerrero, 380 on base. And you got Bo Bichette hitting about a 280. Don't call his name. Alejandro Kirk is hitting above a 300 along with Ernie Clement. You've had Andres Jimenez be a big giant disaster for the team. And Anthony Santander being on the injured list has not hurt this team one bit. But that said, with this Toronto Blue Jays team, it is interesting to take a look at the bullpen. That was very rough to begin the season, but over the last 45 days, they've been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of ERAs. You've got likes of Nick Sandlin, ironically, and a former Guardian, along with Brandon Little, throwing their Uriel Rodriguez, give you a sub-3 ERA. Yimi Garcia being on the injured list hurts them, but Paxton Schultz is able to give you a little bit of length as well. So I did set the Guardians as a very slight favorite here at home at a minus 113. The Blue Jays have just been a little bit suspect with their offense, especially away from home. So I'd like to sign under, and with the Guardians willing to go up to a minus 112 on that money line. 967, 968 on the card. The Athletics are on the road against the Detroit Tigers as Tariq Skubal is on the bump for the Tigres, and Luis Severino is on the bump for the Athletics. And the Athletics do find themselves anywhere between plus 225 to a plus 236 underdog. Between minus 266 to a minus 288 is that number. On Detroit, 7 is the total. Over and under both at minus 110. If you're looking to lay a run line here on Tariq Skubal right now, all we're finding is the FanDuel opener, and you're going to be laying some juice here of about a minus 128. But that's the price I'm willing to pay. I'm willing to go up to minus 143 here with Tariq Skubal and company because I do believe that the home and road splits that we're seeing with Luis Severino are going to be ironing out just a little bit. Now, these pitchers out there in Sacramento have been just completely different in Sacramento rather than away from home. It's not necessarily their natural home environment, and Sacramento is just a bandbox right now that is meant for AAA baseball. But for Severino, 0.93 ERA on the road, no home runs allowed in 38 and 2/3 innings, 6.79 ERA with 7 balls and 57 innings allowed at home. Like, you can't tell me that that's sustainable. Hey, this ERA is 7 times higher at home rather than on the road. I can understand if you have a few points of difference. This is just very extreme. So I do think that the Detroit Tigers are going to be able to get to them. And a big reason why I do believe that the Detroit Tigers are going to get to them, they're number 5 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. As you've got a trio of guys at the top, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, and Kerry Carpenter, who've all been able to give you 13 plus home runs. With Green, he's really doing a little bit of everything for the team as he's now hitting above 290. Torkelson, not necessarily hitting for average, but is giving you 330 on base. But there's a lot of guys around him that are just finding a way on. Dylan Dingler, Gleyber Torres, Zach McKinstry, Javi Baez, all hitting above a 270. Cole Keith has been able to give you about a 335 on base. So these guys are rocking and rolling. And ever since Wencio Perez has come off the injury list, 6 bombs and 71 at bats, 350 on base. That's rock solid. If you look at the overall season numbers for the Tigers bullpen, it's been rather pedestrian. But if you look at it since the 2024 All-Star break, this team has been very rock solid, and they're able to do a nice job of mixing and matching. Brent Herter, who you can utilize as an opener, Tommy Canely, Will Vest, Chase Lee, all these guys are able to give you a sub-3 ERA, and I think that it's going to be very tough for the A's to be able to compete with that. Now, the A's, they do have a pretty solid offense. They're right around about league average with that regard. Tyler Soderstrom and Brent Rooker have been 2 very good hitters for the team with 14 and 15 home runs apiece. Both of these guys give you north of a 335 on base, and Jacob Olsen, 350 average, starting to draw a few walks. You like to see that, but Shea Langolaris being on the injury list has hurt them along with Miguel Andujar, so the offense has been a little bit muted with these guys being out of the fold. But I will say, you've had Nick Kurtz give you 10 home runs and 142 at-bats. That's been rock solid, but what is the opposite of that? This A's bullpen, currently dead last in the big leagues in terms of ERA. Like, you've got one guy that has seen north of 15 innings this far this season in that bullpen that is currently supplying an ERA that is below a 4, and that is Hogan Harris. So yeah, you're going to need to get a little bit more out of someone like a Mason Miller, who he's even up to a 5 ERA. You're looking at Oswaldo Bido, JT again as perhaps being long guys, Tyler Ferguson. They're just giving you nothing whatsoever. And I do think that for Drake Skubal, he continues to be dominant. 11 strikeouts, 1.1 walks per 9 innings, hovering right around about a 2 with regards to that ERA. You take out the first 2 starts of the season on the West Coast, it's a 1.75 ERA. I do think that he's doing for a little bit of regression to perhaps give up like 2 runs in 6 innings, but I do think that for the Tigers, they jump all aboard Luis Severino and get the job done. I do like the run line here of the Tigers up to a -143 and made by total 7.6, so also like the over. 969, 970 on the betting board. The Seattle Mariners are on the road against the Minnesota Twins, as you've got Mr. Chris Paddock on the bump for the Twins, and Luis Castillo is on the bump for Seattle. Seattle does find themselves as a very slim underdog here. You're going to be getting them anywhere between even money to -105, and when it comes to Minnesota, they're anywhere between -108 to a -115, and 8.5 is the total. The under is between -110 to a -115. The over is between -105 to a -110, and with the Minnesota Twins, I set them at a -111. I'd be willing to go up to a -110 here. For Luis Castillo, the swing and miss stuff has just been way down with this guy this far this season, as he is barely getting above 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, albeit he's been able to do a nice job in terms of being able to induce some softer contact than he has a little bit earlier on in his career. Right now he's at a 3.38 ERA, more around a 4.11 fielding dependent though, and the 3 walks per 9 innings are a little bit of a concern for Castillo. He's also got some pretty demonstrative home and road splits ever since he's gotten to Seattle, has obviously been a much better pitcher in his friendly confines. That's mainly just because Seattle is one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks that you're going to find in all of baseball, but still, it is a case where you want to be concerned whenever he does travel away from Seattle, as at home he's got a 2.60 ERA, 4.59 ERA on the road, and then on the flip side, for Chris Paddock, he's been able to do a pretty rock-solid job in terms of being able to keep things out in front of him. 3 earned runs or fewer allowed in all but 2 out of his last 14 starts. Does have a 4.48 ERA with a 4.35 fielding dependent. That's mainly because of 2 massive outlier starts where he gave up 8+ runs, and that very much warps his numbers. Now, Paddock, not necessarily getting a whole bunch of swings and misses, 6.5 strikeouts and 2.6 walks per 9 innings, and the bullpen for the Minnesota Twins has been in the bottom 6 in the big leagues over the last 35 days. That does have to be a concern, but I mean, the top guys have still been the top guys for this team, as you've been able to have Louis Varland, Brock and Roll Stewart, throw in there Yohan Duran and Danny Klum. I'll give you a sub-3.5 ERA. It's been a lot of the other guys like Griffin Jacks that have been getting jacked up, and for the Twins, this is a offense that's starting to ascend with Byron Buxton looking amazing. 17 home runs, north of 350 on base. Trevor Larnach has been able to give you 10 bombs as well. You've got guys that are moving the line, like Willie Castro's giving you 360 on base. Ty France has been able to hit about a 260. Harrison Bader is finding a way on as well, but Matt Wallner, since coming out the injury list, has been completely useless. The Royce Lewis injury has hurt the team because even when he was in the fold, he was not great. And big dumper Cal Raleigh entered in the day on Monday on pace for 66 home runs this season. 31 bombs for Cal Raleigh with north of 380 on base. J.P. Crawford is moving the line. He's giving you north of 400 on base. Not quite that amount of power from anyone outside of Raleigh, but Wyatt Polanco, Rowdy Tellez, Julio Rodriguez, all between 10 and 11 home runs apiece. Polanco along with Rodriguez, both hitting between about a 250 to 260. Now Tellez, 249 on base. You could use a little bit more there, but that said, you've got Randy Arozarena, who doesn't hit for a lot of average, but is giving you about a 355 on base. And for Seattle, this has been about a league average bullpen in terms of ERA as well, but you do have quite a few top guys. They're able to give you some good innings, as Jackson Kowar when he's been out there, Gabe Spire, Andres Munoz have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Matt Brash has yet to give up an earned run thus far this season, but when you get into the likes of Zach Pop, Casey Lugumina and company, it does become a little bit more of a roll of the dice, and I do think that for the Twins, after it's been a little bit less than savory for them, they get to a guy in Luis Castillo that just isn't what he has been in the past. I did set my total at 80.7, so at a -110 or better. Looking at the Twins, and at this total of 8.5, I like the over. 971, 972 on the card. The Tampa Bay Rays are on the road facing off against the Kansas City Royals. Chris with K. Bubich is on the bump for the Royals, and Taj Junkel Milton Bradley is on the bump for the Rays. And the Rays, who find themselves as a underdog of between +118 to a +124, and between -134 to -144 is that number on Kansas City. 8.5 to 9 is the total on the 9. The under is -120, the over is even. On the 8.5, over is -120, and the under is even. And I did set the Royals at a -137 on the money line. I'm going to be willing to lay it with Chris with K. Bubich. This guy has been absolutely magnificent all season season long. Recognize that it's been a little bit more touch and go over his last few starts, but still, he's registering for the year at 2.12 ERA. Strikeout numbers are good, 9.3 strikeouts, so fewer than 3 walks per 9 innings, and he's kept the ball in the yard. 3 home runs allowed over the course of 85 innings, so it has been very supreme there, even with the 8 runs allowed across his last 2 starts. I still have confidence that this guy is going to be able to go out there and shove against a Tampa Bay Rays team that all of a sudden has been a top 10 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. That is big thanks to a pair of guys in Junior Caminero along with Brandon Lau. They have been able to get Lau to combine 33 home runs out of these 2 gentlemen. You've been able to get a lot of production out of Jonathan Aranda, who's been able to give you north of 400 on base. Yandy Diaz, he is hitting well above a 340 over the last 30 days. He's now supplying the team with 12 home runs. He has been able to get very hot. But then the bottom guys, like a Taylor Walls, Cameron Misner, Danny Jansen, these guys have been hitting at 225 or lower. Christopher Morel, when he's been out there, it's been a little bit rough. And though Jose Calabria doesn't necessarily give you great average, 29 stolen bases this year. That is going to help you out quite a bit. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, as we know, this is one of the better bullpens they're going to find in all baseball. So many guys that you're able to mix and match with for a sub 275 ERA. You've got that Garrett Clevenger, Eric Gorze, Pete Fairbanks, Manuel Rodriguez, currently Hunter Biggies out of the fold, but when he's out there, he's pretty rock solid as well. But you've also got a Royals team that's been a top 10 team with regards to their bullpen ERA as well. Carlos Aceves, Lucas Ursuch, really good 8th and 9th inning duo that's able to give you a sub 325 ERA. You've been able to get really good production as well. Out the likes of Daniel Lynch, Steven Cruz, both being able to supply a sub 250 ERA. Even Jonathan Bolin, when they've looked to him, he's been pretty rock solid. Now, the big thing for the Royals is that they are currently dead last in the American League in terms of runs per game. Vinny Pascantino's picked it up, 11 home runs, north of 325 on base. And Bobby Witt Jr., for a normal player standards, 21 stolen bases, 340 on base, 10 home runs. You're thinking a solid season, but that's just not up to standard for Bobby Witt Jr. Miguel Garcia, he's hitting above a 300. He's been able to give you 8 home runs, but there's just a lack of power for this team. Bottom 4 team in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. Salvador Perez is now up to 9 bombs, but at 277 on base, you just expect a little bit more there. You got the likes of Drew Waters, Kyle Isbell, both hitting between about a 250 to a 260, but you've gotten a combined 4 home runs out of those 2 guys as well. So a very interesting predicament there. I do think that Taj Bradley, even though he's been having his issues giving up the deep ball all throughout his career thus far this season, more around about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, 8.2 strikeouts, 3.8 walks per 9 innings, a 4.95 ERA. I do think that he's going to be able to find it a little bit more here against, once again, a pretty pedestrian lineup, even though he's given up at least 5 runs at each out of his last 3 starts, albeit all 5 runs that he gave up against the Mets were unearned. But yeah, he's given up quite a few runs, but I do think that he rounds into form here. Set my total at 7.8, so do like this 8.5 to 9 under, and I do like the Royals up to a minus 135 on that money line, 973, 974 on the card. The LA Angels play the Boston Red Sox. Garrett Crochet is on the bump for the Sox, and you've got Tyler Anderson on the bump for the Angels. Angels are an underdog of anywhere between plus 162 to a plus 169, between minus 187 to a minus $2 number is that number on Boston. 8 is the total. The under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105, and if you're looking to lay run half with Boston, right now seeing that initial FanDuel opener at a minus 110, I'd be willing to go up to a minus 110 here and not a hair more for Garrett Crochet. It has been a very interesting season for him in that his swing and miss stuff is down just as good from a season ago, but he's still been very solid. I was fearing that him not being able to go a whole heck of a lot of length in the back half of the season last year because the White Sox very much just babied him, that would hurt him. Not been the case at all. 220 ERA, 259 fielding independent, 11 punch-outs to 2.5 walks per 9 innings. He has been beyond rock solid for this team, giving up 1 or 2 runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts. And for Tyler Anderson, the regression monster was hungry, and he has come to eat him whole. As for Anderson, this guy was doing it with smoke and mirrors for years. Like, my goodness, this guy, he has been posting up a 4.56 ERA, and he's still doing for a regression. 5.13 fielding independent, 1.7 home runs, 3.4 walks allowed per 9 innings. He has given up now 3+ runs in each out of his last 4 starts. He's given up 4 bombs over his last 2 starts as well, and now he faces off against the Boston Red Sox lineup that is clearly in transition. You've got Rafael Devers that's currently out of the fold, but Tyler Abreu has been wiling out 13+ home runs this season, and you've got quite a few ancillary guys that should see more at-bats that are able to do a nice job just move a line, getting on base. Rami Gonzalez, Rob Refsnyder are both hitting in that neighborhood of a 300. Abraham Toro has been able to about a 290. You've been able to have Ceddanne Rafaela be able to give you a little bit more in terms of average at a 255. Jaron Duran's been a little bit rough recently, but he still finds a way to move the line. Even though you get 10 home runs out of Trevor Story, man, 274 on base, not great. But Carlos Narvaez, 355 on base. And then you've got a Red Sox team that does rank towards the top 10 in the big leagues in terms of opening rate. Aroldis Chapman continues to be an Angel's wonder, north of 12.5 strikeouts and a .41 ERA and 12.5 strikeouts per 9 innings is what I mean by that. You've got Garrett Whitlock, Greg Weiser, Luis Guerrero, who have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Brandon Bernardino has been rock solid. And for the Angels, the bullpen has been a little bit better recently, but they're still a bottom 5 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You've had the corpse of Hunter Strickland actually give you some really good innings. He's been able to give you a sub-2 ERA, but he's pretty much the only guy that has seen north of 10 innings as far as the season for the LA Angels, and is currently supplying you with an ERA that is better than a 4.15, as you've got Ryan Zephyrian, Reed Detmers, Brock and Roll Burke, Kenley Jansen, all looking a little bit better right now. Connor Brogdon as well, but I don't have a lot of faith in these guys. And for the LA Angels, it's an all-or-nothing team right at the bottom of the big league level in terms of their on-base percentage, but number 2 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per-at-bat basis. Like, you got Logan Oppie, 17 home runs with a 268 on base. Taylor Ward, 19 bombs, 271 on base. Joe Adell setting fire to the ring with 16 bombs, hitting at 225. Zach Neto has been able to do a nice job finding way on 270 average, 11 home runs. But even Mike Trout, 324 on base, 227 average with his 12 home runs. Even he's been a little bit rough with that regard. And Luis Renifo, hitting for a 255 on base with 4 home runs and north of 200 bats. That's not necessarily great for this team as well. I do think that Garrett Crochet goes out there, is able to get the job done here. So I did set the Red Sox at a minus 111 on the run line. I'm going to be willing to lay that in. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the 8 over, set my total at 8.2. 975, 976 on the card. The New York Yankees hit the road to face off against the Cincinnati Reds. And yes, we're on to Cincinnati. It's on to Chase Burns getting his MLB debut. And Carlos Rodon is on the bump for the Yankees. Yankees do find themselves as a very sizable favorite of between minus 155 to a minus 165, between plus 134 to a plus 145, that number on Burnsy. And your total on this game is 9.5, under is minus 120, the over is even. On the 9, we're seeing a few of those popping up. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under. I set my total at an 8.8, and I like Chase Burns in this spot. I was willing to take a plus 135 or higher on the money line. For those that don't know about Chase Burns, this guy is absolutely tremendous. Was great at Wake Forest, a former top 5 overall pick of the MLB draft, and in the minor leagues this year, .91 ERA with 12.1 strikeouts, 1.8 walks allowed per 9 innings. Meanwhile, Carlos Rodon has been very good on the road this season. 3.10 ERA overall this year with right around about a home run or so per 9 innings, but a 2.93 ERA with 0.8 home runs per 9 innings when he has been on the road. This is a Yankees team that does rank in the top 10 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and they're starting to mix and match as you've got Yuri De Los Santos along with Tim Hill, both being able to give you sub 350 ERA. Getting back Luke Weaver is very good as well. And for the Cincinnati Reds, they're dealing with Graham Ashcraft being a load of Ashcraft and being on the injured list. It's a bullpen that hasn't necessarily been amazing this year, but Tony Santillan has been able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA. You've had Lyon Richardson as a long guy be able to give you a sub 2 ERA as well. Taylor Rogers has been a little bit touch and go, but for the Cincinnati Reds, the bigger thing for the team is being able to find a running mate with Ellie De La Cruz. 16 plus home runs, right around about a 350 on base. And Matt McClain has been able to give you 9 bombs, but he's hitting below 225 this season. Santiago Espinal is hitting for no power. He's not necessarily hitting for the world's greatest average as well. Now TJ Friedel, 8 plus home runs, north of a 380 on base, and Gavin Lux has been able to give you north of a 355 on base himself. But I mean, it is a touch and go lineup with the likes of Christian Encarnacion and Strain and company at the bottom that aren't giving you too much. Though Jose Trevino hitting about a 300 as well. And for the Yankees, entered into yesterday having scored 4 runs or fewer in 8 out of their last 9 games. Aaron Judge is still doing Aaron Judge things, 20 plus home runs, and he's been able to give you north of 365 on base. As a matter of fact, 26 plus home runs this season. You've got Ben Rice, who's been starting to slide with regards to just finding way on base, less than a 235 average. So let's give you 12 plus home runs, though. And then Trent Grisham, 15 plus bombs, hitting for north of a 340 on base has been paramount. We've seen Paul Goldschmidt see his on base percentage drop, and with his power not necessarily being where it has been in past years, that is a little bit of an issue. But all in all, I do think that for Chase Burns, he does go out there, give a relatively good start against a Yankees team that's been really struggling with their lineup. So I had a plus 135 or higher. I'm going to take a shot on Burnsy and the Reds on the money line, and somebody told it at 8.8. I like the under. 977, 978 on the card. The Arizona Diamondbacks at the road, they're facing off against the Chicago White Sox. As for the Diamondbacks, it's going to be one Ryan Nelson on the bump for them, and then you've got Sean Burke on the bump for the Southsiders. Sign as a total, the over and the under, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, minus 155 to a minus 164 is that number on Arizona. Between plus 134 to a plus 140 is that number on the White Sox. And for the White Sox, I need at least a plus 149 to be able to take a shot there. I did set the Arizona Diamondbacks on the money line at a minus 149. It's probably going to be a rough opener, but if you're taking a look at the FanDuel opener in terms of laying a run F for the Arizona Diamondbacks, that is at a minus +102, and I personally would need at least a +108 to be able to take a shot there. Sean Burke has been a little bit up and down for the White Sox this season, and the biggest thing for Burke is that he just gives up a few too many walks, and he doesn't get enough strikeouts to really be able to justify it. As for Sean Burke, it's not like the ERA is necessarily the world's worst or anything like that. Right now, rocking a 4.50 ERA, but that fielding independence right around about a 4.89 because he gets 7.2 strikeouts and 4.1 walks per 9 innings, allowing 1.3 bombs per 9. He's given up 2 runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts, but when he gets bombed, giving up 7 runs 2 starts ago against the Houston Astros. So that's been an interesting look, and now has to go up against an Arizona Diamondbacks team that does rank in the top 4 in terms of runs per game, and Eugenio Suarez right now is hot as lava. He's been able to give this team 25 home runs, can sometimes go hot and cold in terms of the way that he gets on base and moves the line, but he's now hitting about a 250. Corbin Carroll, 20 bombs. He's been able to hit about a 255 as well. And then you've got Josh Naylor hitting a 300. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, 420 on base, 13 home runs and less than 200 at bats. Pavin Smith is moving the line, so I do think that it's going to be a little bit daunting for him. And for Ryan Nelson, it's just been a little bit up, down, all around for him, as well as for Ryan Nelson. He started out the year as a little bit of a long reliever. Throughout his career, he's been doing a little bit of long relief. He's been doing a little bit of starting, and for Nelson, the ERA is just not necessarily savory at a 3.88, but the fielding independent says that there should be a little bit of positivity, giving up less than a home run per 9 innings. He's giving up fewer than 3 walks per 9, not a high swing and miss guy, but he's given up 1 or 0 runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts, so that speaks to me at 1 blow-up start against the Cincinnati Reds where things just went straight down the toilet bowl there, but I do like what I'm seeing out of him, but I don't necessarily like what is behind him. As for the Arizona Diamondbacks, currently a bottom 5 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You've had a pair of guys in Shelby Miller along Jalen Beeks be relatively solid long guys. These 2 guys have been able to supply you with a sub-3 ERA, and then you've been able to get a few good innings out of Kyle Backus ever since they sent him up to the big league level, but when you've got the likes of Juan Murillo, the in and out of the fold Justin Martinez, Ryan Thompson, Bryce Jarvis, now they've been looking to Taylor Scott and guys like this. They just have not been able to find their footing with regards to this bullpen, but the good news is they do face off against a White Sox team that is in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Now, for the White Sox, averaging a little bit north of 4 runs per game at home, a full run per game less when they're away from home, and they themselves, if you're wanting to look at bullpens, they've been in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA as well. You've had Steven Wilson be able to supply a sub-2 ERA, and Dan Altavia in a small sample size has been solid, but Mike Vasil was a really good long guy for them. They now have to convert him into being a starter. Now you've got the likes of Owen White, Brandon Eisert, throw in there as well someone like a Cam Bouger who's dealing with a little bit of injury right now, Tyler Gilbert. These guys have been giving you north of a 3.6 ERA, and you just don't have a lot of power with this White Sox lineup. Miguel Vargas has been able to give you 10 home runs, lone guy on the roster that's able to give you north of 8 home runs, and you only have 3 guys on the roster with 5+ homers. Luis Robert and Andrew Benintendi are the other 2, and for Luis Robert, he's full of a just cavalcade of guys. They're hitting at 215 or lower. You got Matt Thayes, Michael A. Taylor, when they've given him opportunities, Joshua Palacios, Brooks Baldwin, Andrew Vaughn, who they had to send down to the minor league level, Josh Ross. All these guys are hitting for no average, really not a lot of power whatsoever. So I do think that for the Arizona Diamondbacks, should be able to go out there, get the job done against the Chicago White Sox. In terms of a money line price, I'd be looking at more of a -148 or better, and I'm just seeing a -148 popping onto the board right now for Arizona. Probably going to go a little bit safer with that money line. I did somebody fill it at 8.6. I just don't know if the White Sox will do their part with the total, so like the under and that money line of Arizona, we'll wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The Houston Astros playoffs, the Philadelphia Phillies. Ranger Suarez is on the bump for the Phils, and Framber Valdez goes for Houston. Houston is a favorite of between -132 to a -144, and between +122 to a +125 is that number on the Phillies, and 7.5 is the total. The under is -115 to -120. Over is between even and -105, and for Framber Valdez and the Houston Astros, I set them at a -133 on the money line, so I'm willing to go up to that -132. For Framber Valdez, he has been so good at just being able to keep the hard contact down, giving up less than 0.75 home runs per 9 innings. He's been a relatively good swing and miss guy recently as well. The swing and miss stuff towards the beginning part of the season was a little bit down, but now he's getting 9.3 strikeouts at 3.1 walks per 9 innings, 3.09 ERA, a sub-3 fielding dependent, having given up 1 or 2 runs in each of his last 5 starts, and 9+ strikeouts in 3 of his last 4 as well. And for Ranger Suarez, in his first start off the injured list, he gave up 7 runs in that start, and ever since then, this guy has just been the rock of consistency. As you take that first start out of the fold, he's right now been able to post up an ERA that's hovering right in the neighborhood of about 1, more like about a 125. He is getting about 8.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, so not like a strikeout artist, but fewer than 2.5 walks per 9 innings. He's keeping the ball in the yard, and this has been a Houston Astros team that's been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Now, Jose Altuve is up to a double-figure amount of bombs. He's back up to hitting north of 265, so he's starting to get online a bit more, and you've gotten really good production on Visac Paredes. This is a ballpark that is very much built for him with the Crawford boxes, 16 home runs. He's been able to give you about a 360 on base, and Jeremy Pena, to his credit, hitting a 325 with 11 homers. You'd like to see that, but even though Christian Walker and Yunier Diaz have 9 to 10 home runs apiece, both of these guys give you a sub 285 on base. It's rough. Mauricio Dubon is actually starting to hit a few homers, but again, less than a 300 on base. You need a bit more there. Brendan Rodgers has been a disappointment. Obviously, the team is dealing with the injury to Yordan Alvarez, but what this Astros team does have at their back is the fact that they are number 1 in the American League entering into the series in bullpen ERA. You've got the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Steven Oker, Bennett Sosa, Sean Dubin, a whole bunch of guys give you a sub 325 ERA, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, that's really the kryptonite of this team. Orion Kirkering has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA, but outside of that, you really don't have anyone that's been able to step up and has been able to give you a whole bunch of production, as you've been able to get some okay innings, I guess, out of someone like a Tanner Banks, who's been able to give you about a 370 ERA, but Matt Strahm hasn't been what he has been in past years. Taijuan Walker is someone that they're looking to for some long relief. That has been a little bit of an issue. They had to DFA Carlos Hernandez, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, you've only got one guy on the roster that is right now giving you north of 10 home runs. Kyle Schwarber has been amazing. 24 bombs, 380 on base, and you still have guys that are able to move the line, but Bryce Harper being out with injury, that has been hurting this team. You do have the likes of Nick Castellanos, Trey Turner, Alec Boehm, all give you between 7 and 9 home runs, all hitting at least a 285. Omando Sosa has done a nice job moving the line as well, hitting about a 275. So, I mean, it's a bunch that they find a way on, but that power has just not been there outside of Schwarber. So, I think that's going to be a little bit of an issue. I think that you're in for a low scoring slog. I set my total at 7.4. So, here at the 7.5, I like the under and up to a minus 132. One to lay that Astros money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Tuesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. A big thanks to our good friend Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like here on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, which means I'm going to be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Do Crohn's disease symptoms keep coming back? Tremfya guselkumab may help. At 12 weeks, rapid symptom remission was achieved in most patients taking Tremfya, and some experienced visible improvement of their intestinal lining at 12 weeks and 1 year. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Explore what's possible and ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 7 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.